Okay, so the meeting's called to order at 7:03 this evening, Monday, July 7th. Your council president was excused off. He already had scheduled off. Your mayor's still on medical leave. And so we will do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then I'm going to ask Ashley, the city attorney, to explain how you guys can choose who's going to run the meeting. Okay? Everybody wants to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call first. Again, Mayor Goodwin is excused and Councilor Dumbrell is excused. Councilor Page?
Here.
Councilor Hagedorn? Here. Councilor McCall Wallace? Here. Councilor Payton? Present. Councilor Reddy? Here. Thank you all.
All right, good evening, Ashley Driscoll, City Attorney's Office. I think what makes the most sense is we consider nominations from the council members present, and then a majority of vote will appoint whoever will be the presiding officer for the evening.
I'll nominate Councilor Page. Okay.
Second.
I don't think we need a second for this. Is that correct, Ashley?
You can just go ahead and vote.
All those in favor of Councilor Page running the meeting, say aye.
Aye.
All right,
Any opposed? It's your floor, Councilor Page.
thank you. We're gonna start off with the, we already did roll calls, that's approval of the minutes. Thanks so much.
So I'd like to ask the minutes, a question about the minutes, and I'm not sure that we can approve them tonight. So I noticed throughout the minutes that the mayor's vote was recorded and abstaining, but it's my understanding that we cannot vote by proxy, and we also weren't following the abstention rules. So I think that needs to be revised, but I would, I guess, ask the attorney to weigh in on that.
I can work with Ashley to, I'm sure you're correct, just to verify, and then I will just take that line on each of the resolutions off.
Or if it's supposed to be there, bring it back, but can we have clarification?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to have the minutes reviewed by the attorney and the city recorder to make sure if there's any corrections and bring them back to us.
A second.
Greener first, or a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. All opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion passes. Now it's time for a public comment. As usual, we have 3 minutes. I'll start with what I have for the Zoom meetings. Actually, let's start with the person in the house first. Then we'll people on Zoom finish up. Emily Waldron, sorry.
That's all right. I'm not the best handwriting today.
And I can't, so.
All right, so I guess I have 3 things, which I should have written down 3 things. The first one is I just want to say thank you to the council for taking up the issue of term limits and kind of like restrictions when it comes to committees. I hope that you all will start talking about it earlier than the fall, just because I think it's really important. The last 2 openings we had 4 people apply for a single position on the library board, and 5 people apply for a single position on the budget committee. So obviously the community wants to get involved, and you have 2 fantastic people that are nominated for both those positions. And the budget committee, I think Mark has done great at being a part of that. And the person who's nominated today, I think she is a wonderful person to be in addition to this. But that only happens when we have openings and when we make it available for people to apply. And so I just encourage you all to kind of keep that momentum going to make the changes. So we're not having people who've been in these committees for 35, 40 years, and they can be in there, but we also have the new people that are coming in and have good representation. I wanted to testify just about being concerned, I think, about how the relook committee is discussed sometimes in here and in the planning committee. When relook ended, which I sat on the relook committee, we didn't have any official map. We didn't have any official decision. And that was very clear, made clear to us on that last day that we were not making an official statement or an official choice. And it seems like in recent weeks, city employees are representing that in a different way and putting forward a map that they say is a map that we chose, when that's not what happened. So I just am concerned about a misrepresentation there and assumptions being made without the proper community involvement of what's actually happening. And I think my last thing I wrote was just the Parks District, which I guess Councilor Phage is kind of more your pet project of if you're opening up the idea of a Parks District, I understand wanting that and funding the parks. But then I also would say you all should be prepared for the people you're taxing in that district to want greater representation when it comes to the city government and the management and how that money is being spent if we're contributing to it. So thank you. Hopefully I didn't waste more time.
Thanks so much. For the, I just on Zoom. Debbie?
Hi, good evening. I just want to thank you all for letting me share my thoughts for the evening.
Hey, Debbie, if I can pause you for a second, we'll research your time. I forgot to make a statement that we need to get your address as well.
I have it, they
Okay.
sent it, all three of those sent in and they emailed to me, so.
If you can reset the time, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay, just remember that, Debbie.
Go ahead.
Yes, please, thank you.
Okay, yes. Well, thank you. Well, I'm sure by the end of me sharing this evening, you'll know where I live. So I was, I haven't shared much before in the past. And, this evening, I just felt like there was a lot that I needed to share. And one was an incident that happened on June 28th. We ended up having a couple people come over to our property that were concerned about the dust, and there was combines out there. We were actually farming, and farming, if anyone understands that, it's all about timing and weather, and it has to be done when it's hot, especially with the clover. And they had asked if we would stop farming that day due to the fact they were having a birthday party over at Sunset Ridge, which for me, there was not a whole lot I could do about it. So they ended up calling the police, and the police showed up. And I mean, there really wasn't much that they could do about it as well. I mean, because this is a farming area, right? So even though we are encompassed by, dense neighborhoods, and, we're not really so much country anymore, but we still try to be neighborly, and we ended up farming that area that was right on the edge over at Sunset Ridge, just to eliminate the dust for their party. And so it's just, for us, we just feel like, for years we've been told that, that the problem would be solved by, bringing our property into the UGB, because we are trapped between development. We're harassed by neighbors and the police just for trying to earn, meager income for what we can from our property. And so when you have people that are calling the police and are concerned, I understand that. Also, we have tractors that come out during certain times of the year that are fertilizing with pesticides, and we are trying to prevent major mice infestation. We don't want that to happen. So of course we're going to have to take care of we have to use pesticides. We have an increasing number of trespassers on our property. They walk their dogs on our property. They ride motorbikes on our property. We have asked, hey, can you not do that? But it just seems to be an ongoing problem. And
Debbie, Debbie, your time is up. Thank
Okay.
you for bringing this up. And,
Sure.
And, thanks.
All right. Well, thank you.
Next, we have Ron Bunch. He's up here earlier. We'll give Ron a chance to log on again. Next one, we have Linda give us.
He's
minutes.
there.
Oh, you here?
He's
Sorry.
there. Ron is there.
He needs to unmute himself.
Hold on, Ron's still trying to speak. Ron, you are muted. You're still muted. Ron, if you unmute your phone or your computer.
There we go. Yeah, apologies again. So this evening, I'm going to respond to a request I had to review the May 15th, 2025 meeting. I've been working with groups here to provide some assistance regarding the urban growth boundary and planning in general. So I have been looking at the 2025 Joint City Council Planning Commission meeting in pretty good detail as part of putting together a record on UGB issues. And I wish to convey the following findings, and this is a summary of a memo I sent to Councilor earlier. It addresses the city's housing need analysis completed as part of the voter rescinded UGB effort. It also discusses the state's newer housing capacity opportunities analysis that enlists cities to help build housing at different levels of affordability. So, and part of my findings thus far is that there was kind of an implied bias toward high density, lower income housing that I don't think is in the city's interest. And the findings of that are in the report that I'm preparing and also discussed in greater detail in the memo. It's not in the city's interest to express intent or take action that exhibits bias against affordable housing based on whether it chooses to use the 2000 HNA, the city's housing needs analysis, or the state's new housing capacity analysis. And this is referred to in the record as the ONA, OHNA, or Oregon Housing Needs Analysis. Again, examples of this are also in the compiled record in the memo. Also, I would like to emphasize that city staff should not erroneously interpret the state housing production requirements for cities with populations 10,000 and greater per the ONA requirements. North Plains is only 3,500. Now, the presumption of this was done to influence the city's decisions to use one housing option or another. Again, examples are in the record and also in the memo. As I'd like to emphasize that this is reminiscent of the falsehood previously used to justify the rescinded UGB expansion that small cities under 10,000 population like North Plains are required to do a housing needs analysis. So it's important when going forward, when doing concept planning to expand the UGB, to consider really the full range of housing needs of existing and future residents and ensure state land use laws and rules are accurately referenced and also addressed. So thank you. And if you have any questions later on, you can contact me. Thank you very much. And thanks for the help on doing the Zoom meeting. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ron. Next, we have Linda Gillis Burton. Linda, you're also muted. Linda, you're also on mute.
Can you hear it?
Gotcha.
Good. So good evening, council, and thank you. As you know, my name is Linda Gallus Merton, representing North Plains Strong Towns with members inside and outside city limits. The following questions address a batch of resolutions before you regarding meals, drinks, gifts provided to elected officials, staff, city employees, members of various city boards and commissions. We would like to know what the purpose is of these resolutions, given that Oregon law sets a clear annual limit of $50 from a single interested source. We would like to know what the rationale is for these resolutions when Oregon law exempts food and drink from the $50 annual limit if mandatory attendance is required at a meeting. We would like to know what the process was behind introducing these resolutions, considering the procedures recommended by the League of Oregon Cities has been ignored. We would like to know why these resolutions are being put to the council when the best course of action, if you're in doubt, is just say no. We would like to know what the rationale is for the city manager to spend so much money on legal fees to draft these resolutions and related reports, when to do so raises even more questions. How many municipalities are being asked to approve the same resolutions from the same law firm? Is every municipality being charged the same fee? Was Cannon Beach charged the same amount as North Plains, even though Cannon Beach came first? And what about the charter and code that would have to be changed for the council to be able to vote on these resolutions? We're sending out a memo to each of you explaining why we believe this is true. Finally, and most importantly, what prioritizes these resolutions over the truly urgent business of cleaning up the city's finances, setting up regular reporting of the city's financial statements, and getting our state audits up to date after 5 long years? These resolutions before you tonight act as a diversion to the more important business at hand. Strong Towns recommends, therefore, that a vote on these resolutions be tabled until all relevant questions have been addressed and adequately answered. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in public or in Zoom that has any public comments? Hearing none, moving on. Next, for new business, we have resolutions. There's resolution 2310, appointing a new member to the North Plains Library Board. Robin, could you get some color on this?
Good evening, council. I brought forth this recommendation as a staff member, but this was the library board's the task and recommendation. So our chair, Tim Shalek, is here to tell you about that.
Well, we had 4 outstanding candidates for the library position, the first time in a long time that we have had more than one candidate, so we're very pleased about that. And it was a tough decision, but we're asking you to appoint Megan Poole to the library board to serve her full 4-year term. And we encourage the other folks, candidates, to apply for future board seats. We have quite a few coming up, and it was a learning experience for us as a board, because the last time we had any more than one person was my first attempt to get on the library board, which was 8 years ago. Till that time, just had just one, and it's been fairly simple, but it was a good process for us, and so we would ask that you appoint Megan to serve a full year term.
Good.
Can we just double check that Megan wasn't able to Zoom in? She had a pre-planned camping trip and wasn't sure if she'd have service. She may not have been able to, so she'll look forward to meeting the council at the next meeting.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Could you clarify, Robin, so that the process, there's a specific process for library appointments? You know, each area has its own, and I know that you're connected with the county library as well. So can you just quickly go over that process so that it's,
Sure.
so that you're understanding how we're receiving a recommendation from the board?
Sure, so the library board is an advisory board. It's not really regulated by the Washington County Cooperative Library Services at all, but when the library board was formed, and the charter or the code around that, it was set up to have term limits of 2 4-year terms and then at least a year break before serving again. And it also has some regulations around who the officers, chair and vice chair. So, I'm not exactly sure, you know, why it was set up the way it was, because it was before my time. And there's a few other little differences about agenda creation and so forth. But I would say that it's not a governing board, it's an advisory board, and the library board advises on things like the library budget and the library policies. And go ahead.
We advised on the mission statement, we advised on the strategic plan, and we work as liaisons to the community and try to do what we can to support Robin and her staff as they reach out to the community to provide that service.
And through the code itself, it does have the library board interviewing the candidates
yes.
and making a recommendation to city council.
Correct. Yes, so
So some of our other ones don't, so just to kind of clarify. so
yes,
us that are new.
it's part of the code that the library board interviews applicants and then does a recommendation to city council. Correct. And then it's the council's, the council may review all applicants and does the formal appointment by vote.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'd like to move to appoint Megan Poole to the North Plains City Library Board under resolution 2010.
Brandon first, and second. Okay, thank you.
I didn't, who
I'll
seconded?
second it.
Okay, thank you.
You're in the first, you're in a second. Any other discussion? Okay, you want to go for a vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those that object say nay. Hearing none, motion passes. All right, the next motion, the next set of resolutions are all kind of related. We have resolution 2311, 2312, 2313, 2314, and 2315. All about the food and policy, beverage policy for our city employees and city council as well. Can we get some background on this?
Yeah,
Is there something online?
Ashley and Bill are both online, I'm not sure.
So this was kind of surprising to me. I read some like, what? From my understanding was, when we have a meeting that's required and there's free cookies or coffee, that's not considered payment.
Yeah,
No?
so I think it would help if I just did the staff report and then I think most of the questions that were asked during public comment and I think what you're asking now will be covered. So do you mind if I give the staff report before we go into questions?
You start.
Okay. So what we're talking about here tonight is a series of resolutions, 3 of which pertain to elected officials, 1 that pertains to appointed officials, and 1 that pertains to employees. Essentially all of the public officials that provide services to the city of North Plains. And the reason why these resolutions are in front of you today is because back in, I believe, May or April, the Oregon Government Ethics Commission, OGEC, issued a letter opinion clarifying that under ORS 244040, a public body, which includes the city, may not provide food and beverages to its employees, elected officials, or appointed officials unless those items are expressly included as part of an individual's compensation package. For those who follow this issue and who are involved in local government law in Oregon, this was a really surprising opinion because we had assumed what you had just discussed, Councillor Phage, and what public comment mentioned earlier, that these types of de minimis benefits offered to public officials were part of part of the definition of what a gift is, or subject to one of the exceptions. I have included the Oregon Government Ethics opinion that I'm talking about in the packet, so many of the questions that were posed today during public comment can simply be answered by reading that opinion. However, this restriction applies to many of the routine practices that are common in local government. Those include meals provided during a governing body or staff meeting held over the lunch hour or dinner hour. So during the city council retreat, there was a provided lunch because the city council was at the retreat for, close to 8 hours. Many cities, and I'm assuming the city of North Plains, also have volunteer appreciation events for appointed board or commission members. There's also team building activities where food and beverages are served. And there's also holiday celebration or retirement events that include food, beverages, or other small gifts. The OGEC opinion was also surprising because it didn't have any de minimis exceptions. So a water bottle provided at a city council meeting, or if a city provides, free coffee to its employees or appointed or elected officials, that would also officially trigger this provision. And again, this isn't historically how anybody in the local government community in Oregon has approached this issue, so it's a significant change. But what the opinion says is that the way to address this issue is to expressly make these sort of de minimis, quote unquote, benefits that the city offers its public officials part of the official compensation package. And once you do that, the city can offer, again, these de minimis food, beverage, and other items to city officials who are providing service to the city without those officials being at risk of violating Oregon government ethics laws by accepting the bottle of water or the free coffee that's offered during city council meetings. So again, let me just, yep.
Oh, so good. You're done. Sorry.
Yeah. So what we're looking to do here is to not increase anybody's compensation package, but to simply be able to maintain the status quo without elected, appointed, or staff people being risk or having their ethics at risk anytime they accept those really de minimis items. And in order to move forward with this policy, we have to tease out three different types of public officials. So we have one policy that is designed for city employees, one policy that's designed for appointed officials, and one policy that is designed for elected officials. And I'm going to stop in a second and take your questions regarding the substance of the policy in 1 second. But I will also address that, yes, every local government in Oregon is addressing this issue. And because our law firm only represents local governments in Oregon, we developed these policies internally, not charging any of our clients, in order to be able to provide the service to our clients in order to address this issue. So I did provide, as I mentioned, the Oregon Government Ethics Commission. There's also a lot of information available about this decision online. But before I move forward to how we actually go about making these type of de minimis items part of official compensation packages, I'll stop and take questions.
Thank you. Point of order before we start. The mayor's on leave of absence, so she's not available. The council president's not here. So now we don't have a quorum because you have to break it down into thirds. Each third has to vote, and we don't have enough people to do that. So I think it's good to table 2311, 2312, and 2313 as not being doable with the amount of councilors we have in order to cast the vote.
Do we have a quorum with with 5 people? I would think we have a quorum.
There's one resolution that it wouldn't work.
I don't think it'd work because you have the mayor, councilor, Phage, and Papen. So
Yep.
we are not allowed to vote, so it's 3. Then
So
we have
my understanding,
Yeah, she'll explain that.
Okay, good.
If we talk about it.
yeah, so you do have a quorum. You have a meeting. I believe that you have 3 or 4 counselors present.
5.
You have 5 counselors present. So you have a quorum. Pursuant to your city's charter, what you need to be able to pass a resolution is a majority of the quorum. So you just need 3 votes in order to to pass the different resolutions. So it's my understanding that just 2313 cannot be passed tonight because of the issue that I'm going to talk about next.
Will we just be abstaining? Because we abstain, we still have 3.
So
Or we have 4, yeah.
I think it might help if I go on to discuss the second half of my staff report. So it's actually how we would achieve this tonight. So, you know, there's 2 different ethical issues at play here. So first one is the one that we are looking to address tonight, which is, you know, de minimis food and beverage for public officials. But then there's a second Oregon government ethics law issue, and that's under Oregon government ethics laws, elected officials may not participate in decisions where they have an actual conflict of interest, meaning a financial interest for themselves, their relatives, or household members is at stake in the vote. So when voting on policies that would constitute or have anything to do with your individual official compensation, such as food and beverages, these conflicts have to be carefully managed. So conflicts of interest under ORS 244 are personal to each public official, and as such, as the city attorney, I'm not permitted to provide individual legal advice to any counselor regarding your specific circumstances. However, as the city's attorney, I may offer general recommendations regarding a resolution voting structure that aligns with prior guidance from OGEC, which I've included in your packet. So what OGEC has said in prior circumstances, very similar to the ones that are in front of you, is that individual counselors cannot vote on their own compensation package or a resolution that in any way amends their own compensation package. And in that case, those counselors would have to abstain from the vote on that resolution. So this is sort of like a round robin. So we have divided the council into a number of groups. The mayor in counselor positions 1 and 2 is in one resolution. The next resolution is for counselors in positions 3 and 4. And then the final resolution is for counselors positions 5 and 6. As a member of the council, you know, the guidance would suggest that you would have an actual conflict of interest when voting on the resolution that pertains to your actual compensation package, and you would need to abstain. However, under OGEC's prior guidance, you can vote on the resolutions that do not involve your council position. So if your council position number 1, you can vote on the resolutions that address council positions 3, 4, 5, and 6. You just have to abstain from the one that actually addresses your compensation package. So that's why we had to divide them into 3 different resolutions for elected officials. However, for resolutions 2314, official compensation package for public officials, which is your appointed board and commission members, and then resolution 2315, official compensation package for city staff. There are no conflict issues there. So all of the different, all of the counselors here tonight can vote on that. Does that answer questions about procedure?
Yes, because we're out, we're not gonna have 4 people voting, we do have 5, so an abstention which follows the majority vote, is that correct?
Yeah, when the resolution for your council seat comes up, what you need to do is declare your actual conflict of interest and then abstain from the vote on that resolution. And again, you know, this is an area where I can't actually provide you legal advice. If you have questions about, you know, any ethical concerns regarding voting on these resolutions, you're more than welcome to reach out directly to the Oregon Government Ethics Commission and receive advice on that. And I see Bill has his hand up. I don't know if he wants to chime in.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashley. I did want to just mention that earlier today, we understood that Councillor Phage may not have been able to attend the meeting tonight. And if he had not been able to attend the meeting tonight, then council could not have taken up resolution 2313 pertaining to this issue for councilors Hagedorn and Redding. there wouldn't have been 3 independent counselors. But since luckily Counselor Phage is able to be here tonight, that issue is no longer there, and council can take up 2313 tonight as well.
Thanks for that clarification. Sorry, Bill.
Nope, no problem.
Michelle?
Yeah, I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you to the attorney for putting together the staff report and all of the additional information, which, immediately it did trigger a lot of questions, just reading the resolution, like what's going on. But that was very clear and very helpful, and thank you for providing all of that.
Yeah, I'm sure the mayor is happy about this too.
Just so at the small cities that Trista and I and Bill and Robin attended, there was a follow-up email because this came up there. And apparently LOC is working on a legislative fix for the next session. And if we have any questions, there's a guy in here, I can forward his email to anybody.
All right, let me just a question, Ashley. We're not allowed to discuss our own stuff, but can we discuss it as a group in general?
Yes.
Okay. Discussion. Mandy, you have something?
No, let's get this rolling.
Tristan? Discussion? All right, I'm gonna, first off, I'm gonna make a motion to table, resolution 2311, because we don't have, enough people to pass.
We do have
Yeah,
enough.
we do. We have enough for all of
We have
them.
all
You
of them.
only need 3.
Okay, good. All right.
Yep.
Okay, so,
It just means that you two will need to
abstain.
abstain.
Mandy?
So I would also, so sorry, Councilor Page, just before you move on, I do want to thank, this is a complicated process. I would like to thank Lori, who actually did a lot of the work in terms of personalizing or tailoring all of these materials to the city of North Plains. And she very helpfully, for each one of the resolutions, drafted a sample motion. But yes, when the resolution comes to you, if it is for your position, you need to declare an actual conflict, or the recommendation is declare an actual conflict and then abstain from voting on that matter.
Okay, so I'll just start with resolution 2311, which is the food and beverage policy for the mayor, the Councilors James Phage and Tristan Pippin. I am James Phage, so I have a conflict of interest, so I'll be abstaining from any kind of discussions or votes.
Can we make the motion first?
Yeah, you're abstaining when
I
you,
abstain afterwards.
Yeah.
when you do the
I thought it
vote.
had to declare a conflict first. Actually, do I have to declare a conflict first or during the vote?
First declare the conflict and then the vote.
And then
Okay.
from the vote. Perfect, got it right.
Oh, she's got to abstain too.
I, Counselor Trista Pippin, will also abstain from this vote due to a conflict of interest.
Okay. I move to approve resolution 2311 for the purpose of establishing an official compensation package for the mayor and council positions 1 and 2 for food, beverages, and other city-related items.
I second it.
You're first by Councilor Hagedorn and second by Councilor Wallace. Do I have any objections? No, well, first up, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those not in favor say nay. Hearing none, motion passes. Next, we have resolution 2312, the food and beverage policy for Councilors Nicole Wallace and Aaron Dunbar.
I have a conflict of interest and I'll be abstaining.
Open up for any discussion or motion.
I have a question, and actually, this is Counselor Pippin. I apologize if this is a silly question. But can you elaborate, or is there a specific verbiage what the compensation package would be? Because I know, as counselors, this is an unpaid position, but I understand the intent and the purpose for why we're doing this, but what is this defined as?
Right. So in the policy for each one, it is somewhat open-ended, but it's designed to be just what would be considered de minimis taxable benefits under federal income tax laws. So I'm just going to get to, so the policy includes food, beverage, and other related items provided by the city to covered officials, including any of their relatives or household, during a North Plains related event, such as but not limited to meetings, team building, potlucks, volunteer appreciation lunches. So essentially it covers food and beverage that you receive from North Plains while acting in your role as a city councilor. If the city decides to provide any sort of logo provided items, most typically pens, water bottles, etc., that would be included in your official compensation package. The policy enumerates a bunch of items that would not be considered part of your official compensation package. And then number 4 in the policy says compensation provided as part of an official compensation package may be subject to income tax per the IRS rules as taxable fringe benefits, provided food and beverages are not intended to be taxable fringe benefits. So I'm not going to, if you'd like to, I could go into it further. But essentially what this is looking to cover is anything that is considered de minimis under federal income tax guidelines. So again, like the coffee that's provided during a council meeting, lunch that's provided to city councilors while, attending a retreat, those sorts of items. Does that answer your question, or do you would like me to get more detailed?
No, I appreciate that. I think what I'm really looking for is just clarification, because we all have different events that we attend, and some counselors might attend, 3 events within a year, and others might attend 10 events within a year. So I just want to make sure I'm clear that the guardrails are not, once you hit $200, like for the year, in theory, right? There wouldn't be a red flag.
So that is a great question, and I'm glad that you asked it so I can clarify. This compensation package policy only pertains to food, beverage, and other incidental items that are provided by the city of North Plains. So when you say, sometimes you attend other functions, I'm assuming what you mean is that it's a food and beverage that is provided by the Rotary or the Elks Club when you're attending as part of your official role. Is that the question?
Yes and no, right? So I think about at city events, right? Sometimes we all have different cadences of when we attend, but also, yes, let's say we attend a League of Oregon Cities small city event, right? Does that fall in that umbrella? So I don't want to have to drag you too far down the rabbit hole, but I just wanted to give some parameters.
No, let me answer that. So that situation is covered by either gifts or one of the exceptions to gifts. So that there's no change in how OGAC is going to look at, food and beverages that are provided by anybody besides the city of North Plains. So when you're, attending a function for the League of Oregon Cities, what you need to be looking at is, either is this under the $50 limit? Does it qualify as a gift? Is it under the $50 limit on an annual basis? Or does this qualify for one of the gift exceptions, which, it typically would? So that's sort of a separate issue. So to answer that question, there's no change in how OGAC is interpreting food, beverage, and other items you receive as part of your official duties when the provider is not the city of North Plains. This pertains to just the city of North Plains. And no, there's not any specific dollar cap on what this policy covers, but the policy is intended to not exceed the threshold of a de minimis taxable or de minimis fringe benefit under Oregon or federal tax law. So there's not a dollar amount you need to have in your mind.
Thank you.
Okay, we're discussing 2312. That's the, 2312, which is the food beverage policy for Councilors McCall Wallace and Aaron Nebraw. Michelle McCall Wallace already said that she has a conflict of interest, so she would like to discuss this. Already.
I'll move to approve resolution 2312 for the purpose of establishing a
official compensation package for council positions 3 and 4 for food, beverages, and other city-related items. I'll second.
Hearing the first, the second, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against say nay. Motion passes. Mr. Zamora. All right, resolution 2313, food and beverage policies for councils Hagedorn and Ready.
I am Mandy Hagedorn, so I have a conflict of interest and I'm abstaining from this vote. I am Kate Reddy. I have a conflict of interest, so I'm abstaining from this vote.
Okay, two abstaining. Any discussion?
Point of order. I want to clarify that this is resolution 2313.
I said 2313, right?
Yes, but on our packet, it says 2513, and I just want to make sure we are.
My packet says 2313.
And I clicked,
This
the-
was wrapped up later today, so there's different.
I clicked the link from the city website.
I didn't change any resolution numbers, but whatever.
So I just want to make sure.
I'll confirm that the one that gets signed is the correct number.
Perfect, thank you.
I just looked at the city website just now, it says 2313.
Yeah.
So. Point of order, we are in discussion resolution 2313. No discussion? I'm open for motion.
I move to approve resolution 2313 for the purpose of establishing an official compensation package for council positions 5 and 6 for food, beverages, and other city-related items.
I second.
In the first, in a second, any discussions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those against say nay. Hearing none, motion passes. Next on our agenda is resolution 2314, which is a food and beverage policy for appointed officials. We are all able to vote on this one, I think. Any discussion? Move for motion.
I move to approve resolution 2314 for the purpose of establishing an official compensation package for public officials for food, beverages, and other city-related items.
Second.
In a first, in a second, any discussions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion passes. Next on the agenda is going to be resolution 2315, the food and beverage policy for our city employees. Open up for discussion. Anyone want to make a motion?
I move to approve resolution 15 for the purpose of establishing an official compensation package for the city of North Plains employees for food, beverages, and other city-related items.
I'll second.
In a first and a second, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion passes.
Thank you, City Council, for that. I appreciate it. And I really hope that Councilor Redding is correct, and we will be looking at a legislative fix for this issue in the upcoming session. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lori, for putting together all of those
And thank you for
resolutions.
Mandy for catching a couple of mistakes. We used the Cannon Beach ones as the template, and a couple of them still had Cannon Beach in them earlier today. but
Okay, catch.
I got them corrected.
When I first said, I'm like, come on. That's what I was
Do
thinking.
you see how many pages there are?
I know.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, over a cup of coffee, and you, okay, that's fine.
It was an all thing.
Yeah. All right, next on the agenda is resolution 2316, updating the fiscal year 25-26 fee schedule due to a clerical error. Bill, would you discuss this?
Thank you, Councilor Phage. First, my apologies. My laptop camera is not working, so you get to just see my name, but hear my voice. No, today is not Groundhog Day, or like the Groundhog Day movie. You did pass a resolution that updated the master fee schedule in June for fiscal year 26. Unfortunately, as your staff report indicates, during the process of reviewing all of the updated fees and loading them into our accounting software for purposes of letting people do things, make reservations, change their accounts, their water accounts, all that stuff, we identified that 4 different fees in the Excel file of the master that the master fee schedule is. 4 fees disappeared because their rows disappeared in moving around things on the fee schedule and changing the pagination. So we have a clerical error that caused the 4 fees that we very regularly charge disappeared from the fee schedule in the version that you adopted in June. So in visiting with the city attorney, it was her view that the easiest thing to do was just to readopt the whole schedule, calling out not the new fees, but calling out the reestablishment of the fees that were dropped and didn't appear in the version you already adopted. And I'll just very quickly, they're very common fees and they actually generate thousands of dollars for the city. So it just happens that the Excel error happened. The table disappeared some very important rows, but the Jessie Mays Community Pavilion rental fee, the fee that we charge for 2 hours, for different parties and events in the covered pavilion at Jessie Mays Playground. That one is going to be updated by CPI, which is 2.1% annual inflation, which is quite a bit lower than last year. So there's that fee. We have an application fee for people establishing a new water account, whether they're moving into a new home or whether they've bought an existing home and they're moving in and they're changing the account over to their name. We charge a fee that basically covers the cost of all the clerical work of making sure the records change and all that is verified. That one also is going up, proposed to go up by 2.1% inflation consistent with CPI. There's a reactivation fee for dormant accounts, which takes a bit more work to kind of verify the home is reoccupied, things are working. We're going to shut the water on, and there won't be any. Turn the water back on, and there won't be any problems. That fee was dropped, and that fee as well is recommended to go up by 2.1% inflation this year for FY26, consistent with CPI. And then the other one, actually the largest fee of all of them, I believe it's a little over $250 now. But when we drop a new water meter, meaning when staff go out to put in a new water meter for a new home that is built, that new water meter is what measures how much water is used, and we can bill that home for its monthly water usage. And we actually charge a bit more of a fee for that, but it's for the cost of the meter and the time to go out and properly install the meter so that we have good, safe water connection and accurate measurement of the usage of water monthly. And that fee was dropped due to the Excel error. And it as well, the 4th fee, all of these are recommended to be increased by 2.1% consistent with CPI. That's pretty much a rundown of all the fees that you didn't see in the fee schedule you already adopted. All of these fees have been around for quite a while, really. The newest fee, honestly, is the Jessie Mays Pavilion rental fee. We've only had the pavilion for a couple of years now. So that's the newest one, but they're established fees. And it would not be a good thing to not have them in the fee schedule and not be able to charge the fee for these different things. So with that, I'll leave it to council to discuss.
Thank you for your overview, Bill. Quick question. Just for the future use, whenever we delete something from like an Excel file, are we going to have to go to resolution for that again, or just because we adopted it with those being off?
No, good question, Councilor Phage. That's the essence of this. We're basically when you adopt this resolution, when you adopt a fee schedule resolution, technically what's happening is the resolution calls for the repeal of the entire fee schedule that you adopted prior. You're repealing that. That's step one of that's what the first thing the resolution does. And then the second thing that the resolution does when you adopt it is adopts the new fee schedule in its place. So basically, because of the few missing, we can't adopt individual fees into the fee or re-add fees into the fee schedule. It's just a clean repeal the fee schedule prior and put this new fee schedule in place, replacing everything. And in this case, the only difference between the two will be are 4 new rows in the fee schedule compared to the last one you adopted, and it's just these 4 that were dropped due to the rows disappearing.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Up for discussion, Katie.
Bill, am I able to ask about prior fees that we approved?
I mean, you can always ask any question you want. We can chase something down if you want, or I don't know if it has, yeah, what are you interested in?
I kind of have heard that a citizen applied for a block party and they were charged $87 or $89 for the fee, and they hadn't had that before. And I heard that these are not really new charges, so are they just now being enforced?
The great question. The block party fee is a newer fee because we haven't really had many block parties historically, and then we started having them. And it actually takes some staff time to visit with the people who want to do the block party so that they understand the rules. We understand what kind of barriers are needed, what law enforcement might need to know. They tend to involve meetings with different staff so that everybody's on the same page about how big this is, where it is, what kind of safety measures might be needed. And if you add up that time, that's basically what the fee amounts to, is recovery for that.
And then there was a $500 deposit. Can you elaborate? Is that something someone can get back, and what is it covering?
For a block party or for Jesse May's rental?
I believe it says $500 deposit for a block party.
It's probably, Dustin, our public works director, is the one who could really get into the weeds on it. But by my recollection is a deposit is necessary if we have to bring city equipment like barriers or lights or signs or anything to denote traffic's closed or please go around, that sort of thing. And since it's public property that's being put in service of an optional requested event, we simply have a refundable deposit just in case there's damage or something happens.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, no problem.
Further discussion?
No, I move to adopt resolution 2316 to update the city of North Plains master fee schedule effective July 1st, 2025.
Seconded.
I heard Katie seconded? No,
Michelle did.
Michelle did, okay. Hearing a first and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Hearing none. Motion is passing. All right, next is 2317 Comcast renewal extension. Bill, would you like to add some color to this one as well?
I would be happy to. Thank you, Councilor Phage. There is not a city staff report on this because really this is an intergovernmental, let me back up. The city of North Plains receives franchise fee revenue that's paid by Comcast, ultimately Comcast customers who use Comcast for cable TV and broadband within the city of North Plains city limits. Now, the city of North Plains is not the one actually that has the franchise agreement with Comcast in this case. In this case, in the case of Comcast, the Metropolitan Area Communications Commission, MAC, the acronym is MAC, they're the ones who have the county-wide jurisdiction to negotiate and have a franchise agreement with Comcast for broadband and cable TV. And as a city within as a city within Washington County, we are party to MAC's existing franchise agreements and new ones that they negotiate on our behalf, and then we receive franchise fee revenue paid by Comcast to MAC, and then MAC sends us the money based on our, kind of on our population. So at present, MAC is currently negotiating a new standard, but new multi-year cable franchise agreement with Comcast. Those things take a lot of time. And the current negotiation that's going on for a multi-year renewal between MAC on behalf of all the cities in the county and Comcast, that negotiation is pushing past the new fiscal year starting. And so MAC has asked all of its member cities to approve a temporary 1-year extension of the existing franchise agreement, just so that they can continue to collect franchise fee revenue from Comcast and continue to distribute those revenues to each of the member cities, agencies, including North Plains. And they're requesting that all the cities do this so that they can, we continue to get revenue the way we have been, but it allows also Comcast and MAC to negotiate in good faith on a new contract extension, franchise fee agreement extension, when the time comes. So this is really kind of meant to be a temporary push it forward existing agreement 1 year to just enable them to continue, their attorneys and them to continue to negotiate. I will leave it at that.
So the way I see it is, MAC has an umbrella, it's kind of a larger area, and they negotiate for us to prevent everybody, individual cities and areas from getting 1,000 different contract talks at once, right? So they're gonna do it, it's just a way to make the bureaucracy smaller. Is that correct?
That's certainly part of it. What I will say is, just to be clear, Council and Councilor Phage, our franchise private utility franchise and right-of-way agreement attorney is the same attorney for MAC. And I had her, I honestly did not realize that we have the same attorney. There's no conflict there. She's kind of one of the main experts on this issue in for the state of Oregon, for agencies in the state of Oregon. She works for public agencies really only here. And so I sent this over to her and I said, is there anything in here I need to be aware of or any issues that council might want to understand in this? And she got back to me and said, no, how you understand it and what you have gotten is pretty much at face value fine. I was actually part of the assistance in getting MAC this temporary agreement with Comcast just to move things forward. And indeed, MAC is working on a big countywide agreement that all the different agencies share in, and that's not, that's not something that we would have the power to do by ourselves for something like this. So there is an element of MAC being able to work on our behalf more effectively than us doing things all by ourselves.
Andy?
This is probably a forward-looking question. Will the future contracts, current state and or future state, can you speak to the ability for other service providers to enter our market?
Great question. There are no provisions in this agreement, and to my understanding, I think it would be illegal for any franchise agreement to have a no compete clause of any kind in there. So that's why and that's also why our right-of-way franchise fee and license system is generally written to allow any number of competitors who wish to come into North Plains. But I think we would run afoul of the law if we had any kind of non-compete clause in there. So I couldn't cite section and line to say, Councilor Hagedorn, look, so right here is the line that answers very directly, we can't ban competitors from the city. But I'm about 99% certain we would run afoul of the law if that was attempted.
Thanks.
Sure.
Okay, open for discussion on motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2317, extending the term of the cable television franchise of Comcast of Oregon II Incorporated to enable the Metropolitan Area Communications Commission to complete the informal renewal process.
Wow, working, thank you. Anyone second?
I'll second it.
Second, having a first and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Hearing none, motion passes. All right, thank you for the resolutions. We had a lot of them done tonight. Now we're gonna go on to unfinished business, which is the security bond. Let's make some progress on that. Bill, can you talk about this as well?
Thank you, Councilor Phage. Ashley is here, and so any technical questions I would defer to her because she did work with Assured Partners very directly on answering her questions to Ashley's satisfaction. But before you is the surety bond that we worked out with Assured Partners at a value of $100,000 as requested, and that covers bad faith, error, crime, that sort of thing, actions by city manager that would put the city at risk along those lines. And we've discussed the issue a few times at different city council meetings. So it's there before you. We're ready to, it's due upon receipt. We're ready to to process the invoice and send the payment for this. But any technical questions, I would defer to Ashley on kind of where she went with Assured Partners on any particulars.
I'll start off and then get to Mandy. Thank you for this work. It took a bit of time. What can we do in the future to make this just happen automatically without having to go to committee? Is this something we just have it automatically renewed for us?
Well, I mean, there's a specific term to it. So it's the thing is that in the new ordinance that was adopted by council late last year, this requirement of the city manager was changed from a fixed $25,000 surety bond value to the coverage on this on a required surety bond for the city manager. The fixed amount of $25,000 in the code was eliminated, and so I think I could be wrong, and it's up to council, but the intent is probably check in after a certain amount of time. Do we feel we still need this amount of coverage? Do we need more? Do we need less? And to remind you all about the conversation you had before, it's up to you all to have this in addition to insurance policy coverage we have that's significantly greater, more than twice this, for many of the same risks involving city manager or even other staff actions that are put the city at risk for embezzlement, those sorts of things. So it's up to you all to check in about this, tell the city manager, renew that, or have a discussion at some point about whether or not you want to continue to have a separate city manager surety bond, or if you want to up the coverage of the existing other policy the city has, or you have a number of levers here. And so I think there's kind of an inherent check-in about this stuff I guess would be my answer.
Thank you. Mandy? Yeah, then.
Yes, one question I had about provision number 1, I was wondering if Ashley could elaborate. It speaks about there's another dollar figure not to exceed 2,500.
Yes, I can elaborate about that because this is the provision that I went back and forth with Alicia on a number of times, because from a layperson that doesn't read a lot of surety bonds, it certainly seems like the amount is $2,500 and for the bond. But when you scroll down, you see schedule of employees on the second page, and the surety bond amount is $100,000. What was explained to me is that the surety bond is in effect, and my understanding of it is a little bit different than Bill's, is that now that we have the level of the bond in place, that we would just keep renewing the bond annually, and there would be no occasion for this having to come back to council for as long as Bill is in the position of your city manager. You could, remove the provision of your city code and therefore can stop paying the premium on this surety bond. But I guess my perspective on this is once you put this in place for Bill, you have no obligation to revisit it until you have a new city manager.
No, yeah, it says, it reads to me like the cost of the bond is, could go up to 2,500 but not exceed. Is that a correct interpretation?
No. So I went back and forth with Alicia on this, and this is for the succeeding. So when a new city manager comes in place, there's going to be the bond is still going to be in place, but in a lesser amount for the first 30 days that person is employed. And then that person would need to get their own bond. I don't think the language is very clear, which is why I went back and forth on this, but I was assured for Bill, if we're paying the premium for Bill, the bond amount is $100,000, which is clarified on the second page schedule of employees.
It's just transition. So during the transition to the new city manager, then it would be held in place, but not activated for that person until they paid as the 100,000 until they paid.
Right, and yeah, that's what seems like if we change the city manager as well as bonds that is in place, it's gonna lower the amount to $2,500 coverage.
Yes. Sorry, sometimes Councilor Phage, I can't hear you very well, but I think your question was if we have a new city manager who takes Bill's place, you guys are still going to have a surety bond in place for the first 30 days, but the amount is reduced to $2,500 for that person for the first 30 days. So there's no gap in coverage.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Thank you. So we had a lot of discussion on this, on the surety bond with, in terms of what insurance we already have, and talked with our insurance provider, et cetera. And we had agreed as a council to put this on the August agenda to look at what we wanted to do for the future. So that we could clean up that code in the ordinance, if we wanted to change it or not, any of that. So I imagine that we would be bringing it back in August to simply look at the process and sort of say, do you want to stay with this? Pay the $350 or whatever it is per year going forward with the city manager, or do we want to change this? But we had already asked as a council to put that on the August agenda.
Any further questions or discussion? So we need a motion for this, we just need to say okay, right? Or is there any paid?
I'll make a motion.
Actually, do we just need consensus or?
So it says approved by city council in the code. And so I would just like some sort of vote to demonstrate that the council approves the amount of the bond.
Okay, so we're gonna do, sorry, Andy, do you have any question?
Can I just do a motion?
I guess,
Somebody do-
yeah.
I make a motion that the city of North Plains, surety bond insuring the city and, the city manager, Bill Reed, for $100,000 be approved and authorized to be paid for.
A second.
Okay, you're in the first and the second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Hearing none, passes. Yeah, I was just gonna take a, a quick like hands up or yes or no, but that's, the way we did is really good. All right. For the new business, it says discussion for city manager's 6-month review process. So, should we get some clarity on what the process review is gonna look like? Is it for us to discuss when we're gonna do it and what kind of, what we're gonna be looking for, or discussions? Bill?
Yeah, thank you, Counselor Phage. I think it looks like Ashley's kind of maybe stepped away or it has the camera turned off anyway, but yeah, so just as an introduction to the issue, in my contract, there is a provision that after 6 months, the first 6 months of being the new city manager, there is a review that happens. And we're a little bit past that because 6 months was in the depths of budget and some other things going on, and so it happens. But there's a very specific process and that occurs here. And so Ashley was gonna just kind of walk you through that and how to think about it and when you want to do it, basically. So I'll turn it over to her.
So I think Bill and I might have had a little bit of a communication snafu because I was not prepared to introduce this topic, but I can talk to you about what the contract says and some ideas regarding going forward. So the contract does say that after 6 months, the city will review the performance of the employee and determine if the employee's performance meets or exceeds expectations. So, Bill, you might have a little bit more history of the process that the city has used in the past for annual evaluations. That might be a good model for what we use here. Sometimes with 6-month evaluations, cities do something a little bit more abbreviated. So I guess I would be interested to hear from Bill what process the city has been using in the past.
Sure, thank you. So there actually is a council adopted city manager evaluation form and process. In my time, an update to that had occurred, and I think that was just a couple of years ago. But basically, there's just kind of a standard form kind of survey style that goes out to city councilors, and you get to kind of mark answers about different things from your viewpoint and experience. And there's some written answers for you to make comment about. And then in the annual review, in addition to that, there's the opportunity for staff to provide input through kind of a separate type of form that asks questions that kind of more specific to staff about their operations within the city and city manager interaction and direction and those sorts of things. And so between the two, that ends up really kind of being the formal review process. And then those results and findings compiled and then kind of discussed in meeting with city council, typically executive session, so that you can delve into whatever is needed and kind of talk things out the right way. So that everybody kind of feels like they can be heard. And that's kind of how it's worked, basically.
All right, in the past, we've gotten a form to fill out.
I think the attorney wasn't done speaking.
Oh, sorry.
Ashley, were you done speaking?
Yes, I'm interested to hear what Councilor Phage has to say.
In the past, we were given a form to fill out, and we all discussed it at the. It was compiled by the attorneys, and then we discussed it in the special session.
Okay. So that's a pretty typical process. So, if we want to get this process kicked off here today, especially if we already have a form that's been adopted by the city council, one way to expedite this process is to, say that the forms are going to be distributed to members of the city council by the end of the week. City councilors and members of staff have until X date to return those forms. Those forms can all come into my office, and then I can compile the responses, and then the city council can meet in executive session by themselves and review, with, typically legal counsel, and review the results of the performance, or review the compiled results of the performance review, have some discussion on that. And then either later in that executive session or at an executive session following, have Bill come in and discuss the evaluation results with Bill. It is a little bit more cumbersome having that one part of the executive session without Bill part of it, and then either a second half or another executive session with him as part of it. But I'm sure that you can all appreciate it is very challenging having 7 supervisors. And sometimes that first part of the meeting, the executive session without Bill there, is a great time to have discussion and try to come to as unified a voice as possible in order to do your best at giving unified guidance to the city manager.
Okay, Mandy, do you have anything?
Well, I found a resolution 2171, which was basically the last, there was a last known, evaluation form that was, introduced and approved in 2023. Would that be the one that we would follow?
There's another, there's been a few of them. And it's from Ashley's office. I'm pretty sure she has the blank copies. Maybe if you look at those, make sure the names are correct. Just get it, we have a city manager. Maybe send them out to each city council person and give it a while for us to fill out.
In addition to the form, I do know that there was some amendments to the job description, in December. It'd be great to have the latest known, single source of truth of what we're, evaluating him against too. Would that be something we could receive as well, or expect to receive?
That sounds to be very, very doable. It's kind of like a job overview and,
I think you're speaking about the change from moving, the specifics of the job of the city manager that was in code and moving it into resolution, which happened this past December. And it listed a variety of things. It didn't really change things, it just moved them. But it does sort of say,
There's some
there is an
changes.
end,
We just wanna see a
right,
single source.
and no longer the head of public works.
I don't want to speak for you, Andy, but what I think you're trying to say is, or what you are saying is that you want to have like a code list of what we're actually measured against.
Yeah, what's the
Right.
latest and greatest job description we're talking
Right.
about, yeah.
So Ashley, is that possible for us to do?
Yes, to get a copy of the newest job description prior to filling out your evaluation.
How much time do you need to compile this information and make a nice cohesive package?
Like a week, 10 days. And then the last piece of it is, do you guys want Bill to do a self-evaluation prior to filling out your evaluation? And is that something that Bill is interested in doing as well?
Good question. Yeah, I mean, I would need to look at the form. You know what, I failed to mention that there is one for city manager to fill out themselves. So thank you for reminding me. I don't remember the specifics, but I'm happy to, and we can make that part of it, certainly.
I'm thinking about having this take place over the next few weeks and having a discussion on August 4th, our first meeting, special session afterwards. Is everybody agreeable to that? Ashley, would that be okay with you for the next, set up Bill's self-evaluation? And then.
Yeah,
give us
how
a
about-
time to do it,
let's-
And we discuss it August 4th.
Yeah, let's map this out just with the calendar in front of us. So let's give Bill a week for you to do your self-evaluation. Is that enough time?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Okay, so that's July 14th. So July 14th, we'll send the packet out, which will have Bill's self-evaluation, the job description, and the evaluation form. Council returns it by July 21st. Would that be enough time for you, council? I know that everybody has a lot of vacation schedules and everything, but essentially a week to fill out the evaluation form. And well, let's call it 30.
Sorry, I have the calendar for now. July 21st is the earliest you think you have it done, or do you want to stick with August 4th?
To have back by us. But I have a question on that. So having Bill fill out the evaluation form, the self-evaluation form, and sending that to us with the packet, then sort of, I would say it changes, how do I say it? It's then responding to Bill rather than responding to the questions themselves. So if we were to look at those in that exec session, look at them both, or, once it all is compiled, to sort of say, oh, here's what was noticed by the group, and here's what Bill says, and then have that conversation, rather than sending that self-evaluation initially.
Right, we'll give the self-evaluation for discussion, like, you think you're the best at this, however, we don't, whatever it is, right? Or any kind of discussion we may have on that. I think maybe what Michelle's thinking about, because otherwise, it's self-evaluation, we're gonna be looking at that and critiquing that evaluation instead of our own.
It's totally up to the city of North Plains how you guys want to sequence this. Some city councils like to have the self-evaluation when they're, thinking through their evaluation. Others do what you're talking about, where, you talk about both the results of the council's evaluation and the city manager self-evaluation at the executive session. So it's really up to how you guys want to handle it.
No, it's a conversation.
Tristan?
Yeah, I think, just to echo what Councilor McCall Wallace had mentioned about, not creating any implicit bias on, Bill providing his self-evaluation first. I'm curious if, following that timeline of July 14th, Ashley is able to potentially prepare those documents to send to Bill and both council, if we would be able to have our first executive session on our July 21st meeting. And then potentially a second executive session to share findings with Bill for that August meeting.
But she needs time to compile it herself. Yeah. So we're gonna have a week to do it, and then she needs 8 days to do it. So, is it coming to us? And putting together the packet in the first place. So coming to us on the 14th, and then we do it until the 21st and return it. And then it's compiled, would put us at the 4th.
Yeah.
I think.
I was feeling I
that's
wouldn't
good,
want
yeah.
two executive
Yeah.
sessions.
And we can just do one executive session. So
Yeah.
do we all agree that that's where we want to go? So, the way we want to go is we're going to have, you send out, Bill can do his self-evaluation and we can do our evaluation at the same time. They don't need to be stepped. And,
Send out the 14th.
so by the 14th, if we move at the same time, we could probably get done to the 21st. You guys want to do it that way?
I mean, if we're not waiting for Bill to do his self-evaluation, we could get this out by
Yeah.
the end of the week.
Right. You do ours at the same time. If you're able to build your own, if you're able to build what you need to have for us.
I think Bill has his hand up.
Hey, y'all, I appreciate, I just want to say I appreciate everybody wanting to move this forward and quickly. I actually will be on vacation and away on Monday, July 21st, but I will be back for I will be at the first August meeting.
So if we were to receive the packet on the 14th, and that is for council and staff and Bill, and then have it returned by the 21st to the attorney could compile it, and then we would have our executive session on August 4th.
So we're back to the 4th again. That sounds more thorough. Is that what we want to do? Andy?
Would we be able to then, as we're waiting in preparation of the 4th meeting on the 4th, receive his evaluation after we did ours?
Yeah, I think what will happen is that she's going to send out the evaluation compiled
Yeah.
of what we have, and then we can discuss it.
I think we should discuss it in executive session rather than having it be sent out into the community before that.
What do you guys want to do? Send it out for review first, or review it all in the executive session? Historically, we evaluate them all in executive session.
Why don't we just bring all the materials to executive session on August 4th?
Well, let's move forward.
I'm hearing a consensus. We have a consensus. We're gonna do, you're gonna send us the information by the 14th of what we need to do, and that will give you enough time to have it compiled by the 4th. With the due date for us to get it done is on the 21st of August, so we all submit our evaluations, sorry, the 21st of July. We'll all have our evaluations done then, And on the 4th, we'll have executive session after the meeting.
Works for me.
Works for me. Are we cool? So be it. All right, that concludes new business. Now we have city manager reports.
Sorry, I had it on mute. Thank you, Counselor Phage. So first, just quickly, so I don't forget to mention, I just mentioned again, I'll be on vacation for I'll be on vacation when the Monday, July 21st City Council meeting happens. But I will be at City Council meeting on August 4th. So as far as city manager report, first thing I guess I would say is just to kind of let you know that we did have a conversation with ODOT about the city's urban growth boundary concept planning grant. And Planning Commission heard this conversation at their meeting last month. And we've had conversation with ODOT since, just kind of on logistics and how to think about things. But basically, we're quickly approaching a point where the remaining scope of work in the grant, the actual public outreach, the committees, and then the actual technical planning that goes into all of it, we're quickly approaching a point where it's going to be increasingly difficult to feasibly not possible to do have the consultants do all of the work for us with the community and with staff and leadership in time for the work to be done and fully funded, paid for, all the deliverables, final deliverables done and paid for by June 30, 2026. It will take just under a year to get everything done within a reasonable time frame. And so we're kind of at a point where the Planning Commission heard this, and ODOT doesn't need or require or is trying to put pressure on us to expand our boundary or to expand our boundary in a certain way, but it wants to see that the issue is being taken up and moving forward in some way. Because recall, the planning grant we have with ODOT isn't to plan a particular urban growth boundary expansion. Ultimately, that's what it will do, whatever, if ever, a specific urban growth boundary expansion is chosen by this city and it's adopted. But the planning grant allows concept planning for growth and different types of development and how they would go together, and infrastructure and how to finance the infrastructure, all those things, and all the community input and outreach that would go with it. The grant is for just concept planning on, in the expansion area, and then ultimately whatever line is drawn around it, that would be a new urban growth boundary expansion. But we're in a position where we do need to move forward, or at a certain point, we're kind of don't have enough time to do everything that needs to be done over the course of a year. So the Planning Commission heard all of this, and I just kind of wanted to let you know that they're going to try to figure out some kind of new smaller urban growth boundary expansion recommendation, kind of based on input. It sounds like certainly what the relook committee studied and discussed, and kind of what information came out of their conclusions. And I would agree with public comment that there wasn't a specific map that everybody endorsed, but there was certainly strong majority agreement about principles behind what an urban growth boundary, a smaller urban growth boundary expansion should be, and what it should do. And so the Planning Commission wants to take up the issue and plans to, so that it's thought about, it's considered, and we continue to move forward with ODOT as a partner on the grant that we have to plan. So I just wanted to put that out there. And that should be happening. So that should be happening sometime later this summer. The Planning Commission beginning to look into that. So just giving you that report on that issue. And then, let's see, I'll be gone, coming next week and a little bit longer than that. We continue to work on the work program for the EPA Brownfield grant. To reiterate, we did not get Oregon lottery bond funding from the state of Oregon, the legislature, in the lottery bond bill before the end of the legislative session. So the EPA Brownfield grant that we were selected for is our only external funding source to deal with at this point for brownfield remediation of the Glencoe Opportunity Area property. So we're going through that. Rowan has done a phenomenal job of putting together a work program based on the information, and we've been meeting with. We just had a meeting today with EPA Region 10 representative that's kind of managing our case. And so that's moving forward, and we actually should have a finalized work program probably by the end of the week. And that's kind of a big major step in moving towards an actual award being announced. So that's coming up as well. Other than that, I don't have a ton more to report, so I just wanted to give you an update about those things.
Thank you. All right. I'm sorry.
We take a quick break.
Oh, absolutely. We're about to do reports, but we can take a quick break. Let's go and adjourn at 8:39, and we'll re-adjourn. We'll come back after a 5-minute break at 8:45. We said we'll come back at 8:45. We have another couple of minutes left. We just going to start. All right. I'm going to advise we get to move on. So council's meeting's back in session at 8:43. All right. So we have city manager report. Now we have city council reports. Tristan.
Well, I wasn't raising my hand for council report, but I can do
Oh,
that
sorry.
first. But I just wanted to follow up, and Bill, I hope you're still on. I just had a question, just regarding the ODOT TGM grant. And I reviewed the planning commission minutes, and, you know, looks like the planning commission is looking to try to come together and have some sort of recommendation in July. And I just wanted to know, what is the absolute timeline to keep us on track for this TGM grant? And I'm curious if we could add it to maybe the council meeting schedule, that calendar spreadsheet that we have, just to keep us in that line of sight.
Yeah, no, I'm here. I'm here till the very end, Councilor Pavin, so it's all good and it's a great question. I mean, in terms of the timeline, you know, ODOT was getting uncomfortable with things so to get into the weeds on it, the entire scope of work, part of the scope of work has been done, and that is simply a bunch of technical work to look into the existing conditions of the candidate lands around the city that could be brought into the UGB with the UGB expansion. So, you know, kind of all just kind of the physical and regulatory and utility stuff about, you know, what's outside the city, just kind of additional existing technical work on existing conditions. But at this point, what's left is kind of the big heavy lift on all this, and, you know, really kind of getting the community involved in input and outreach. And ODOT simply expressed to Planning Commission and us that if we get too far, you know, July 31st, really kind of, we're getting into less than a year for sure of time left to do everything left in the scope and fund it, spend the money, get the money out the door before, you know, get the last check out the door, paying for the process before June 30th of 2026. And so ODOT didn't have a hard specific deadline, but what we did talk about was, you know, if we don't kind of get the ball rolling before the end of July or earlier, mid-August at the latest, we just kind of get to a point where are we going to get this done and paid for, all the stuff that goes into this before June 30th? So I want to be careful here. I don't want to overstate or too specifically state what ODOT staff said, but what they did express was the further we get into summer here and get into August even, we're just kind of getting into heartburn territory about whether or not we can pull everything off before June 30th and have ODOT pay for all this, the final deliverables by June 30th. So that's kind of what we're dealing with. And as far as, kind of getting things onto the city council schedule, we certainly can. I mean, what the process looks like basically is, planning commission so at this coming planning commission meeting, they're going to go over and try to better understand the existing conditions work that's been done, to kind of better understand what's been found about the land outside the city. Because there might be some things in there that the planning commission thinks, oh, well, that might material affect how we think about where a new boundary might go or not, that sort of thing. So they're going to review all that at the next meeting. And then after they hear that and kind of chew on it, my guess is they come back in August to kind of begin a process about, okay, well, we have to recommend a map. A line is on a map, so that means a map. And my guess is that in August sometime that, they would direct staff to kind of, maybe take what the RAC committee, the relook committee, concluded and come back with some kind of map option that best reflects that, something along those lines. And then they begin to talk about that in August. But until, a map is settled upon, there's nothing to really kind of go through the process about, an actual comprehensive plan amendment and map amendment, that then we would also, potentially, that would be heard, and then a recommendation would be made about it, to you all. So there's a bit of a process here. And Rowan, if Rowan cares to, there's also a whole process we have to go through with DLCD to make sure that as we go through this process, we're properly noticing and we're properly updating in our PAPA number and file on all this. We have an extensive file under a particular file case number with the state. And Rowan last week clarified how this process works if we move forward to make sure that the record is consistent and properly kept. So there's a whole DLCD process that we also have to be careful of, doing things properly, procedurally as well.
Thank you, and I think, what I'm looking for is, as a council, if we have consensus on just mapping out some checkpoints. So what I don't want to have happen is we get to a point where we're trying to rush everything and rush community input and, don't have a cohesive package. So that's why I was hoping just to maybe get some more solidified dates, because I'm not too familiar with some of the concept planning and how long that really will take. So maybe this is a discussion we have as a council of if we want to entertain this on future agendas, just as checkpoints on the calendar, so that we're aligned with that time frame for the grant money.
I'd like to see a timeline and a time frame for us to work within, and then, yeah, we could be mapping that easily with our meetings to know that. So that it doesn't get.
I also think it's a good idea to have it codified, put into writing, so we actually have a target. When things are kind of in a nebula, we don't really pay attention because we get drowned out by things that are in front of our faces. So if we could figure out a good Gantt chart, figure out a good flow chart of how we're gonna, with the checkpoints, what we need to do and get that done, that'd be great.
Can we direct the city manager to put that together for us?
Can I ask a question? I would like to see this grant that we're talking about, if possible, if you could email that to the council body so we can understand what we're talking about. I suspect that this was approved a while ago, and so there's a lot of work in process. I've tried looking for it. I tried hunting on our website independently, but unfortunately I could not find that, so it'd be helpful to me. Yeah, thanks.
But we have, this is a council to actually kind of codify this and put some dates down and go towards those dates.
Well, if this is currently being tabled at the planning commission, wouldn't they come back to us with a recommendation?
Well, we would have dates like, we need to get this done by this date, or we need to get things going by this date, so planning commission could also know what they need to do.
Well, I think Bill just said that they were gonna come back with a recommendation, so.
But not for each of the steps that have to happen on the way.
But they're the experts in the process as well too. Maybe they can put together a recommendation, including a
If I
timeline.
may just add some clarification, I want to be very clear that the UGB recommendation and the UGB concept planning are separate but parallel issues. And so when we're talking about the UGB concept planning grant, we're running up against this June 2026 deadline. We do have a scope of work and we can work backwards from June 2026 to it takes with the current scope of work right about 11, 12 months, which is why we really need to come to a consensus that this process is going to move forward. Now, what ODOT wants to see is also an effort from the city to move forward with some sort of boundary map in parallel to this concept planning process. As Bill alluded to, I'm working with DLCD right now to understand what our steps are to remain procedurally in line with any sort of UGB boundary map. But outside of sort of that procedural public notice process, we can continue to have the conversation between city council, between planning commission staff, any other outreach committees that have been had about what that map might look like in parallel with the concept planning. Internally, we do have a Gantt chart right now for the concept planning process. That's a resource that we can share with you. And then any sort of boundary drawing would be done in parallel with more details to come on that.
So I think the ask is the Gantt chart we have with all the steps in place that need to happen. Can we put them inside, or whatever decisions we need to make as far as planning commission goes or anything? Can we put dates in there? And maybe not the, it's too late date, maybe a date, a little bit in advance,
The
right?
goal date,
Right,
not the worst case scenario date.
right.
Of course, yes.
So,
Sorry, Trish was first.
Sorry, I just had a couple quick things. Counselor Hagenhorn, I just wanted to clarify, is it the TGM ODOT grant that you're unclear of the plan documents for that?
I'm looking for the statement of work and the TGM grant. I could not find it independently, and I think it's a fair ask for somebody to follow up.
Yeah, absolutely, and
So it sounds like she's gonna do that. Do you have any questions related to that?
Yeah, so I think part of our council rules is that we have a consensus for council to direct the work of staff.
Oh, okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I just wanted to clarify that, because I'm still looking on the city website right now, but I found part of the rabbit hole and Rowan, go ahead.
You'll find the scope of work in the July Planning Commission packet.
Awesome, thank you for
Or-
clarifying
Was
that.
it, was it July?
No, June, sorry, we're having July in 2 days. So June Planning Commission packet has the scope of work for this grant.
Thank you for.
Thank you.
Michelle, you had one to come in? All right, so we're okay with suggesting that we have a clear path of the dates we need to have? Great, thank you. All right, city council calendars. I'm looking at the July,
council report.
I'm sorry,
Council
council reports. We started there and we went back. Council reports, please.
I can go first.
Sure.
I attended as ex officio to the library board meeting. Thank you to Robin, really comprehensive minutes, so kind of stole a little bit of my thunder, but I think just some notable things were, again, the recommendation for the library board. And I really want to commend the library board for their well thought out interview questions. They were very intentional, and I would really encourage future boards and commissions, and we can definitely discuss this at a later date, to kind of have a standardized list of interview questions. That way it's not viewed as subjective, and it's the same interview questions for all applicants. And then a few weeks ago, myself and Councilor Redding also attended the Small Cities meeting in Banks, hosted by Banks with League of Oregon Cities, and had some good presentations. And that's what Councilor Redding had alluded to of potential legislation coming forward for how to define food and gifts for elected officials. So thank you. Oh, and I would say thank you to city staff as well for the 4th of July parade. It was really great. Thank you, Chief Jones. I saw Dustin as well. So thank you. That was a really well-oiled machine. So thank you.
Excellent. Okay, I guess it's my turn.
It is.
On June 26th, there was a Strong Towns meeting held at the Rogue. There were about 30 people in attendance. And 30 roughly. I didn't literally go and tap on shoulders. But there was strong attendance, and the event included, it was informative quizzes, just to help ground the attendees on the principles of strong towns. It served to be good icebreakers too. They discussed projects that the group is working on. One included donation of trees. Another one included disaster preparedness, and they're also doing business outreach. They kind of did some rifting and idea generation. There seemed to be some confusion amongst some of the attendees what Strong Towns is, but I suspect with frequency and with time, people will, the confusion will diffuse. Their next meeting is going to be the 4th week of September, and they plan to host their meeting in a different place and location. So. Also, another thing that I want to bring up is the state of Oregon, or Business Oregon, had commissioned University of Oregon to do a survey of the business climate in the state. The name of the report is External Business Recruitment: Are Businesses Leaving Oregon, and if so, why? This report was published January 2025. I strongly recommend people look up the website and read it. It was actually startling because a quarter of Oregon businesses are being recruited out of state to other locations like Texas and Washington. They stated relocation reasons included high costs, slow permitting, workforce challenges, et cetera. It's really startling just reading and learning about the business climate. The reason why we should care about this is because while growth is a hot topic that the city is really laser focused on, but we also need to ensure that we're keeping our businesses and the state of our current fiscal economy healthy as well too. And so I'd like to in the future, I think I recommend that the council body read this report if they have time, and our EDC, because I think it'll be important to explore how we might be able to collaborate with Business Oregon to really understand how we can serve our businesses better in town.
Yeah, there's always a change for labor, right? Wherever state has the best taxes and the friendliest business policies go.
Yeah.
So.
That's also what I say, you can also just send it out to council. It's not a discussion item, it's just an information for us. And for like emails, you can always send things like that.
Michelle, you have anything for us?
Yes, thank you. Well, one is, I got to see the parade go by on the new parade route, and that was really nice to see and exciting, and to see all the neighbors that are out along the Brynhill Way as well. And all the kids chasing candy. The other thing I wanted to say is I also attended Structures. It was a very busy night in North Plains, and I want to commend the library, and it was the library assistant, and I can't remember her name, on June 26th that did the Dances of India with 12 youth dancers, and they had 192 people here. And so I want to call that out because that's a pretty phenomenal turnout here, and I didn't get to come by and see it because so much was going on. But I did go to the Skin Cycle open house for Elizabeth Pasco. It's on Commercial Street. She's an esthetician. But just to let her know, that we knew her business was there and to say hello. And, and I want to invite all the communities to do that when there's open houses or events happening so that we support our business community and get to know them. I also stopped by the Rogue for the North Plains chapter of Strong Towns public meeting, but I can only stay for a few minutes. From my understanding, the steering committee has come up with some projects, and they talked about the emergency one. I got there right at the end of them talking about that one, but they also talked about working on a survey with the local businesses and talking to the local businesses and meeting with them, as well as tree planting in the community. I did let them know, from my point of view as a counselor, that we welcome folks working together collaboratively with the city and the council and our businesses and our organizations and our community members to better the city and, you know, encourage that collaborative kind of volunteerism. One thing that they did talk about the economic development piece of meeting with businesses and talking to them about what they needed and gathering feedback. I did let Strong Towns know after the meeting that I was available to help connect them to the EDC, since they're working on a similar thing. They've done a survey, which they have about a dozen responses, I think, at this point, and they're looking to get more on that. And also, we'll be meeting with the business owners so that it might be a way to create a more collaborative aspect of supporting our local businesses. So I did let both sides know. Hopefully there will be some conversations that happen there. And then I wanted to bring up an issue that I have seen in the community, and that is recently there was, to clarify, there was a publication that was sent out through Substack and through the Friends site there, but also Friends of Smart Growth, and then later reposted 2 weeks after that on Facebook pages for the North Plains community, that told the community that the censoring motion against the mayor, the censure of the mayor, was essentially an effort to, it looked like, to challenge the UGB vote and the UGB expansion vote that it had happened. And so, and it's not the first time these things have kind of come out, but it definitely is sort of a fear-based thing, and it's not based in accurate information. That is not the case. You can hear the motion to censure that happened in the meeting. It's on video. It has nothing to do with the UGB. It's not some hidden agenda behind it. And it's ongoing because the mayor has been out, so it hasn't happened yet. And they're not necessarily connected. And I think it's unfortunate that there's these kinds of connections that are created to sort of project this into the community. And in thinking about that, I realized that it all is rooted in some ways, way back in a what would I call it? A campaign mode, being in the mode to campaign and campaigning against the other side. And if the other side is the city government, if the other side is the council from the past, if the other side is your other neighbors, it doesn't really matter. It's that campaign point of view, rather than we're all in the city, we're all working for the city, and it's 6 months in, and it's time for us to move beyond that. And so I wanted to call out that information because we're not on Facebook going, wait, that's not true, you know, back and forth and in those conversations. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Katie?
I attended the same LSC Small Cities, Oregon Heritage and Resources presentation. My biggest takeaway was I was able to look up the Oregon historic sites for our city, and if I'm allowed to, I was going to provide them to Lori to provide in the packet for people to check out. I thought it was pretty cool, some of the sites in town. And I'm sure Rowan's already all over any of the resources she provided that would get us any grants or funding. And that was, I could provide anything you did.
For myself, a lot of the events for the July and the small cities all took place on time that I'm at work, and I need to be at work pretty much right now. So work is getting pretty heavy. So I couldn't attend the 4th of July or any of those other kind of things. But the Garlic Festival Parade, I'm gonna try to make sure we get it. Do we have a city council float or anything that we arranged for that? In the past, Butch always got a tractor and some like bales of hay for it. Maybe something we could think about, we could take it offline. We want to have some kind of city council thing where you throw out candy and children. That'd be fun. Nothing else, let's move on to calendars. I have listed here for the July calendar, my son is primary for Metro Policy Committee for now. These on Wednesdays, every other Wednesday, I work, and this is at the priority to be at work and do some pretty huge attention. I'm gonna say it's primary, and by nature, I'm gonna have to miss half of those. Because my schedule does not allow me to take those.
They still had you as primary.
Thought that Aaron took it, and I was gonna back up if we have to. I'm free this one, I'm not working on this Sunday, I mean, Wednesday, but by nature, every other one, I'll be missing, so 50% of those. I thought I was off with it.
They had you as the primary still. Were you ever the primary? Because when I emailed them,
No,
they
It was
said,
Ariel,
yeah,
So are you filling in for Eric?
I can fill for, okay, I can fill for Ariel this one.
Right, that's what
Okay,
you're doing.
that's okay, I was looking for
That's what I thought.
for the future, I'm like, I can't do it, I can do this one, but not everyone. All right, cool. That was my only concern. How's everybody else looking for the calendars? Any kind of changes we need to have made?
I would like to flag that, we discussed on the 7/14, we've got Kitty Redding here, we discussed last time that, I would fill
I
in.
changed it.
Okay, thank you.
It's already changed. The problem is, you guys, you two sound exactly like on the recording, and it calls you both Katie.
Interesting.
So if you could speak in another foreign language or with
Yeah.
some kind of accent.
Have like a French accent.
I'll work on my twang.
There you go.
How do you say calendar? All right, with that being done, ready to call the meeting now to close at 9:08.